Today we're breaking down 12 players we would absolutely throw the mortgage on, bet our lives on. We're going to go round by round, round 1, round 2, round 3, round 4 of multi-site ADP, and each of us is going to give a player that we are throwing the house down on. And of course, we'll talk about some guys we both agree on, some honorable mentions if we have some time for it. But Danny, let's not waste any time. Let's start with the first round. Obviously, the best players are going at the top. You know, we could talk about Chase, we could talk about Bijan, so on and so forth. I'll let you kick us off with the player that everybody knows is about to come out of your mouth.
I mean, I got to keep the tradition going. CeeDee Lamb is my value of the first round. Pretty simple. I value him as a top 3 overall player in drafts, and in some drafts, you can get him 4th overall, 5th overall, 6th overall. This is a guy that was coming off a wide receiver 1 overall, 400 plus PPR point season literally 2 years ago in 2023. And this is going to be an improved offense going into 2025. Not to mention Dak Prescott currently tied for second in odds to lead the league in passing yards with Patrick Mahomes. This figures to be a super pass-heavy offense. You do the math there. What are you going to do? Are you going to pass the ball? Or are you going to run the ball when you have Javonte Williams in the backfield, or you have CeeDee Lamb, you have George Pickens, you have Dak Prescott, you have Jake Ferguson? To me, it's pretty simple. This is going to be one of the pass-happiest offenses in the league on an offense that's been number 1 in expected wide receiver points across the last 2 years. And CeeDee Lamb, let's state it like it is. Superstar talent, offensive insulation. Like I said, I would straight up rather CeeDee Lamb to any asset in fantasy, bar Jahmyr Chase and the guy we'll talk about in the honorable mentions.
Yeah, no, and if you guys think Danny's just being biased here, I absolutely love CeeDee Lamb where he's going to, because underrated part about CeeDee Lamb, he goes around pick 4 on like sharp draft rooms, underdog, and things of that nature. You're going to get him falling to 105, 106, 107 potentially in your specific home league. So I do think that knowing that you can get him potentially in that 105 to 108 range is especially a great show for those of you guys playing in home leagues. The guy that I'm going to be talking about here is more so going at the back end of the first round, because I think this is the range where you do have to take a stance. You do have to make a player take that I'm going to go this guy pretty much anytime I have that pick 107 through 112 range. And to me, that guy would have been Puka Nacua, but with all this Matthew Stafford stuff going on, I am a little bit spooked off of it. I'm going to go with Malik Nabers. 18.2 PPR points per game. As a rookie last year, was the wide receiver 6 in points per game with a 35% target share, which led all wide receivers. And I've brought up this before. He could barely drink legally in the United States of America and led all wide receivers in targets. 21.7 points per game in fantasy when the Giants scored at least 14 points. You know, they were a bad offense last year. Let's call a spade a spade. They were a bottom 3 offense in points per game, yards per attempt, pretty much every metric you look at. Russell Wilson isn't much, but he had the Steelers averaging 23.27 points per game as an offense when he was the starting quarterback. Whether it's Jackson Dart, Jameis Winston, or Russell Wilson, the plans have been indicated to us by the Giants that the Giants want Russell Wilson to be their starter. It's been no quarterback competition whatsoever. I expect Russ to start the majority of the year, similar to like what we saw with the Falcons and Kirk Cousins and Michael Penix last year. I think that's how this quarterback situation will play out. And that's great news for Nabers, because he's an exceptionally gifted player and he's getting all the targets in the world.
Who was the player that we said Malik Nabers from a ceiling perspective, talent perspective, could reach if he hit his ceiling?
Jahmyr Chase.
And who has he been compared to all training camp so far?
Jahmyr Chase.
And who finishes the wide receiver 1 in 2024?
Jahmyr Chase.
So, I mean, the tea leaves are there. If Russell Wilson can just provide adequate quarterback play, top 15, top 20 level quarterback play, you're looking at a potential 21, 22 plus point per game score. So I do like Malik Nabers where he's going, mid to back end of the first round. I think that is a reasonable pick there. The honorable mention we actually have listed for the first round, a guy that I actually moved up recently to my 2nd overall player, Jahmyr Gibbs of the Detroit Lions. And Jahmyr Gibbs, 22 years old in 2024, averaged 21.3 PPR points per game as the RB2. And when you just isolate out the games in his career that David Montgomery's been out, 27.4 PPR points per game. And last year as a second-year player in that stretch, 31.5 points per game. Just a 53% and 51% opportunity share in the last 2 years. Reports are bullish that he's going to get more work. There's reports that now he's the first back going out in the offense. That's been a role that David Montgomery has occupied these last couple years. Really what it boils down to for me is I have no question marks about the talent level of Jahmyr Gibbs, one of the most efficient running backs in the league. We know that the prospect profile indicated that he had an elite receiving ceiling that maybe we even haven't seen yet. I really do think there's a possibility this time, year 3 breakout, we could see this guy take a Jamal Charles level-esque jump.
Yeah. His top 3 to 5 upside is including David Montgomery playing.
Yes.
He already has finished as the top 7 running back as a rookie in PPR, top 10 running back as a rookie in PPR on a 51% opportunity share. Last year, 53% opportunity share. He was the RB2 in points per game. Imagine if Montgomery either goes down with an injury for significant time or just they use Jahmyr Gibbs as the main running back. That's everything we've heard. Splitting out wide. He's the first team offensive back. Everything we've heard from them, it sounds like we could see let's say a 10% uptick in the opportunity share that Jahmyr Gibbs has. He scored, 20 touchdowns last year with David Montgomery scoring 12 or 15 himself. This is an offense that, despite losing Ben Johnson, wants to run through these running backs. We see every week Hayden Winks tweet out running back usage by team. It's the Detroit Lions and it's by a country mile. If Jahmyr Gibbs carves out a bigger share of that usage, he has 25, 27 point per game upside, as you just mentioned, a prime Jamal Charles.
Well, that's the beautiful thing of it, because people will say, well, what if the Lions regress? Regress what? In terms of rush volume? I think that's where they would regress. Who's going to be the beneficiary of them passing the ball more, Dave Montgomery or Jahmyr Gibbs?
Yeah, not to mention, Jameson Williams has talked about how they want to stretch the field a little bit more. Like, if they're not throwing all these over-the-middle targets to Amon-Ra St. Brown every single play, like Ben Johnson drawed up the offense to do, Jahmyr Gibbs could be a huge beneficiary. Like you said, there's still a little bit of untapped potential there for him to go from like a 4-5 target per game running back to a 6-7 target per game running back.
And Ron's tweeted this out. He was legitimately, from a receiving perspective, receiving yard market share in college, a Christian McCaffrey level receiving back talent. We haven't really seen that yet in the league. Like, sure, he was very efficient per target last year, about 52 receptions, 520 receiving yards. Like, what if he just says year 3, he's a 750, 800 yard receiver? You're talking about legitimate 25 point per game upside.
Yeah, no, absolutely. If they throw the ball more, Jahmyr Gibbs is going to be a huge, huge beneficiary of that. So closing out that round 1 area, obviously, you got to take your chances in round 1. It's easy for us to just say, all of them are good projections, just take whoever is best available. It's like, well, you got to rank somebody over the other. If you're picking 108, 109, 110 or whatever, you got to decide, who am I taking? Malik Nabers, BTJ, Genty, Christian McCaffrey, Puka Nacua. You got to make a decision. And for us, we're trying to make those decisions. And Gibbs, like Lamb, sometimes does fall to the 104, 105, 106 because of David Montgomery's presence.
And these are two guys, especially given the fact that they're in their prime years of their age, attached to offenses from a volume perspective, I believe in, that I have straight up ranked above Saquon Barkley. And maybe that's a hot take given the consensus market, but I would take second and third overall, Jahmyr Gibbs and CeeDee Lamb, respectively.
And I don't have them second and third because I have Bijan ahead of both of them, but I have them third and fourth. Gibbs at 3 and Lamb at 4, and I do have them both over Saquon as well. So that's kind of where we differ from, I guess, the market. Looking at round 2, we have BTJ, Devon Achane, Trey McBride. Both of us kind of agree on Devon Achane, but I'll kick us off with Brian Thomas Jr. here. 16.7 PPR points per game as a rookie last year. Wide receiver 11 overall finish, again, at 21 years old. 3rd in yards, 8th in yards per route run with a 2.55 mark. He also missed his starting quarterback for 7 games, including the 7 games in which he was the best for fantasy, and he still went for 1,300 yards and 10 touchdowns. If I told you were a huge BTJ guy before the season last year, if I told you he was going to produce 1,310 touchdowns as a rookie, you probably would have assumed that Trevor Lawrence took some huge step forward, or Trevor Lawrence was great for fantasy last year.
He missed half the year.
He missed half the year, and he wasn't even that good when he played.
And the funniest thing, so shout out Hayden Winks. He's coined the term before the post-bye rookie bump. I believe it was week 13. Again, you can fact check me. We'll probably throw the graphic up on the screen when I'm talking about it. But Brian Thomas Jr., prior to his bye, was like a 13 point per game receiver. Brian Thomas Jr., after his bye week, was averaging over 20 PPR points per game.
Yes, and that's assuming everything stays the same. But we have improvements here. Liam Cohen coming in, scheming up the offense. I've seen a ton of stuff about how they're going to move him around. He had 7 touchdowns out of the slot last year, and he was dominant when he was moved into the slot. Travis Hunter, we got a report the other day, Liam Cohen saying, the exact quote was this. I talked about it on a Fantasy News of the Day TikTok. If we play 65, 70 snaps on offense, ideally he's playing like 80% of those. So Travis Hunter is the number 2 receiver in this offense. And for those of you guys that are not high on Travis Hunter, you better be super high on Brian Thomas Jr. then, because the way that this offense is going to run, the way that Liam Cohen's going to scheme things up, I cannot tell you, as someone who watched this offense very, very in-depth last year as a Buccaneers fan, how much I was impressed with the creativity, the scheming guys open. Last year, fun fact, Mike Evans, lowest amount of contested catch opportunities of his career, despite being 31 years old. So if Brian Thomas Jr. is getting schemed open,
exactly,
how many long touchdowns are we going to see? How many red zone touchdowns are we going to see? How many big plays are we going to see?
And that's what's exciting about it, right? When you have an offensive schemer that can scheme open space, for such elite athletes. Again, you can apply obviously Travis Hunter to this. We're talking specifically about Brian Thomas Jr. right now, but man, like it's exciting. I mean, how many times did we have to see last year, bunch trips on the outside, Jalen McMillan running a wheel route wide open for a touchdown. Like we saw that so many times, so frequently with Liam Cohen as the OC in Tampa Bay. And I would argue again, maybe this is a hot take, but Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, De'Ami Brown, like I would take that trio straight up over the Bucks trio, and that's not even shade on the Bucks.
Well, I mean, when you factor in that Godwin missed 10 games last year and Evans missed a couple games himself, McMillan wasn't really playing well until the end of the season. I don't think that's an outrageous take. Obviously, we're not including Igbuka and the Bucks this year in that conversation, but last year's Buccaneers team, like there was games in which Baker Mayfield was throwing to Cade Otton as his number one receiver. I think Ryan Miller and Sterling Shepard had 7+ target games last year.
Ryan Miller, is he a respawn of Scotty Miller or what's going on there?
Yeah, Ryan Miller, the former Buffalo Sabres goalie, was catching passes for the Buccaneers last year. But yeah, Danny, I'll throw it to you because BTJ, again, here's my stance on the Jags. Last thing before we move on. If you don't love Travis Hunter this year, you better have Brian Thomas Jr. ranked super high. And both of us, you more so than me, love Travis Hunter this year to the point that we take him in the 4th, 5th round, no problem. But I'm still taking Brian Thomas Jr. as a top 12 player in fantasy.
Dude, we literally just saw the Cincinnati Bengals have 2 top 5 point per game scoring wide receivers. And I think Brian Thomas Jr., Travis Hunter, from a talent perspective, has the opportunity to be the single best duo in the league. I think if you were to take Jamar Chase and T. Higgins, but both receivers have the Jamar Chase level upside, that is the Jags duo.
Yeah, and even if you say Chase and Higgins are better, I can't name a better duo than those guys. Maybe A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith's a conversation. Like, it's close, man. BTJ and Hunter might already be one of the best duos in the league. Danny, I'll throw it to you for Trey McBride, who is obviously not a wide receiver or a running back. I tend to be, squeamish of not taking wide receivers and running backs specifically this year in those first couple of rounds, but make the case for Trey McBride here.
Yeah, and the case for him, and we talked about the hero wide receiver strategy, the hero wide receiver build in strategy video this past week, but he is just such a safe projection on that 2-3 turn. Think of it like this. Year 3 player last year, 15.6 PPR points per game. Great season. He did it on 2 scoring touchdowns, 2 receiving touchdowns last year, and he was a 15.6 PPR point per game scorer. He led all tight ends in targets per game and is one of the 3 to 5 best talents in the league.
Yeah, definitely. I think he's probably the 2nd or 3rd best tight end in the league in terms of a receiving upside, and there's a lot of meat left on the bone, like you just said.
But that's the thing. Like when you imply also that this is one of the most concentrated target hierarchies in the league, it is Trey McBride, it is Marvin Harrison Jr., after that, Michael Wilson, James Conner, maybe targets out of the back. Like, who realistically is commanding targets on that offense outside of Trey McBride and Marvin Harrison Jr.? And on top of that, if Kyler does bounce back as a passer, the upside is 18+ points per game. We saw 147 targets last year, just 2 receiving touchdowns. Maybe we see 150+ targets and 8 receiving touchdowns.
Yeah, and McBride's entering that point in his year, in his career where he's entering his prime. Like that year 4, 25, 26 years old, that's when you're going to get the best production out of tight ends. I am not a guy who likes taking tight ends early. I actually have Trey McBride as my tight end 1. I have him ranked over Brock Bowers, and it's for a lot of what you said. He beat Brock Bowers in targets last year. Other than Harrison taking a step forward, there's no other targets in that offense that really threaten me. Whereas with the Raiders, I think Jency could be involved out of the backfield more than the Cardinals running backs. I think Jacoby Myers is going to command a lot of targets. We're hearing some buzz about Besh and Dante Thornton and some of those other guys. So for me with Trey McBride, it also comes down to the fact that the Cardinals have the 9th highest implied point total scoring this year per Vegas. They have one of the easiest schedules and the most scoring friendly, shootout friendly schedules in the NFL. So if I'm going to take a tight end early, it is going to be Trey McBride because most often I'm not going to have to make the decision of Bowers versus McBride because McBride goes 6 or 7 picks after him. But at that 2-3 turn, knowing that sometimes you can get really good value in the 3rd round, in the 4th round, even into the 5th round at running back specifically, you want to start your draft with Jamar Chase, grab Trey McBride, grab a Breece Hall, Omarion Hampton, a Josh Jacobs, a Jonathan Taylor, a Bucky Irving. You could start your draft Chase, McBride, Bucky, for example, and on the 4-5, the 6-7, those turns, fill out your wide receiver and running back position. I think this hero wide receiver build actually fits a lot better with grabbing an elite tight end like McBride.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you're banking on a legit needle mover at his position. Not to mention, we broke down the data from Ryan Heath that if you're going to find a tight end league winner, Second round is usually where it comes out. Now, obviously, that data is skewed because it's mostly just freaking Travis Kelce being the league winner. But I think Trey McBride, from a talent perspective, from an opportunity perspective, volume perspective, has the opportunity to be a tight end league winner.
Yeah, and there's going to be leagues where you can get him around 3, by the way, too. He'll probably slide to like the 304 in some people's leagues. Devon Achane is the other guy that we have as the second round value here. 2 seasons in the NFL for Devon Achane, 2 top 6 finishes. Pretty good for a guy who was a third round pick. 17.6 PPR points per game last year, 87 targets, which led all running backs, and he led all running backs with 600 receiving yards as well. But as we've talked about, and as every fantasy analyst has probably talked about the splits of, when Tua Tagovailoa was healthy and the Dolphins' offense was not a complete and utter eyesore, because it was without Tua Tagovailoa out there, 22.55 PPR points per game. That outscored Saquon Barkley's 2024 season. So how Devon Achane gets there is 100-plus target upside this year. He legitimately has that kind of upside. We're hearing, Tyreek take him out in short yardage, all this kind of bullshit. But honestly, I don't really care that much.
Maybe they should take Tyreek out in short yardage based off how he played last year.
Yeah, I don't even really care that much. Let's say they take Achane out for the dirty carries. Jalen Wright gets those. Ollie Gordon gets those. We're even hearing some Alexander Madison short yardage buzz. Who cares? Devon Achane is going to get the stuff that matters, the red zone stuff, the receiving targets. Think of the prime Alvin Kamara projection. You were never getting 25 touches a game with prime Alvin Kamara. You were never getting 25 touches a game with a prime Aaron Jones, for example. But Devon Achane is the next guy in line. We're seeing that guy who gets the receiving targets. Even the 49ers don't even use Christian McCaffrey this way. And of course, Mike McDaniel came from San Francisco. They used guys in those dirty carries, the 3rd and 1s on the 40-yard line. Who cares? You know the expected fantasy point output of a 3rd and 1 on your own 40-yard line? Not that high. You know the expected fantasy points per game output of a wheel route in the red zone? Very high.
Yeah, and we've already seen, videos of him in training camp cooking people as receivers. I mean, you just look up Devon Achane highlight tape from 2024. When this guy is in open space, he's a threat to score from anywhere on the field. And I believe it was week 16 against the Niners last year, that 50-plus yard touchdown got a lot of people into the BBM finals. Devon Achane has 20-plus point per game upside, and usually you don't see that amongst the running back position in round 2.
He's not even ranked in round 2 for me. I have him in the first segment. I have him ranked as my 10th or my 9th overall player. I can't remember. He's right there as I picked 9th in my home league. I am going to have to seriously think about whether or not I want to take Devon Achane, because I do think that the way you got to think of how does a guy hit a legendary season? He's got to have a path, and Achane's path. Tua's talking about getting the ball out faster this year, and he already gets the ball out faster than anybody in the league. And they lost their best offensive lineman in the offseason, Teron Armstead. So if there's a worry for Devon Achane, it's that we might never see that 2023 rushing efficiency where he was breaking long plays. What do you average, 7 yards a carry or something like that as a rookie? We probably won't see that again. But the way he gets there is receiving volume.
He's been a top 6 running back in his first 2 years. And he got there in different ways both years.
Yeah, he's so versatile, man. And as crazy as this sounds, I actually think the backup QBs, if Tua were to miss 3 or 4 games, Zach Wilson got Breece Hall to a top 10 season. He's not anything special, but he did throw the ball a ton to Breece Hall, if you really think about it. So at the very least, Tua goes down for 4 games. Zach Wilson will check the ball down 8 or 9 times. Even if Tua misses some time, I think Devon Achane is a very safe pick. But let's go into round 3 before we start going too long on this. We got to talk about Chase Brown. I mean, we got to talk about
18th overall player, both of us.
Yeah, he is a 3rd round pick in multi-site ADP.
Shouldn't be.
Going off the board as the 304, and this factors in that he goes higher than this on Underdog. When you factor in ESPN, Sleeper, Yahoo, NFL.com leagues, you're going to get this guy in the mid-3rd round most of the time. Maybe he's going to start to rise up because of the Zach Moss news, but here's the snapshot for Chase Brown. We know what the Bengals are. The Bengals are a top 5 to 10 scoring offense. Should have been a playoff team last year if it wasn't for, if anybody's watched a quarterback documentary, you look at how frustrated Joe Burrow was visibly by that situation. Chase Brown, after week 9, 20.9 PPR points per game. Only Bijan Robinson was better. 5.5 targets per game in that stretch. This is not a guy who was just getting fed 25 carries a game. He was getting 19 carries a game, but 5.5 targets a game.
Dude.
That's insane.
24.5 opportunities per game on a top 5 offense. That is all the case we need to be making for Chase Brown. We don't even have to mention his PPR points per game. All I need to say to you is nearly 25 opportunities per game, in the Bengals offense, and you should be drafting this guy in round 3. It is that clear cut. When you mention it now, okay, 20.9 PPR points for him now the stretch last year, obviously another uptick in his value. We already have their OC basically saying, like, dude, like, this guy is a focal point of our offense. He showed himself capable last year, and we want to feature him more. That is reports we are hearing out of Cincinnati, and he's still going in round 3. Guys, like, this is a mid-round 2 type of running back that you're getting in mid-round 3. Take the value. Don't worry about anything else. This is why hero wide receiver is so viable, because you can take on the 2-3 turn Chase Brown plus Trey McBride after starting Jahmyr Chase.
Yeah, not to mention, too, like, I understand being pessimistic about a day 3 running back. People have brought up, well, what about James Robinson? What about all these other guys that had great seasons and then they're day 3 guys, so they don't necessarily get the volume? If we saw...
You better be drafting Taj Brooks then.
If we saw a major investment in the running back position, I would have been anti-Chase Brown probably. But Taj Brooks, the 6th-round rookie, who is a early down plotter, so even if he takes away some volume, it's probably not any of the receiving volume. The Cincinnati Bengals, by the way, projected for the most amount of pass attempts in the NFL this year, and still have a bad defense where Trey Hendrickson still doesn't even have a contract yet. Like, their best defensive player is not even practicing right now. They're going to throw the ball like crazy. Moss to the non-football injury list, 3 broken bones in his neck or whatever he said last year.
Yeah, there was reports that he was literally considering retiring when he suffered the injury. So when he got back this offseason, like I even said it to you, I'm like, I don't think Zach Moss is going to be anything. In fact, I wouldn't even be shocked if he got cut. I said that to you, and now people are all shocked. I'm like, well, I mean, like if you just followed the tea leaves and saw, hey, this guy was legitimately considering retirement midway through last season, people would have spotted this right out the get-go. People that were claiming Zach Moss to be a big thorn in Chase Brown's side simply weren't following the news.
Yeah, and this was a long time coming too. Chase Brown was my 2nd-year player last year. There's a good chance that Zach Moss was a pest at the beginning of the season because Chase Brown was a young 2nd-year player. The fact that he's getting comps to Austin Eckler by his own very OC, one of the focal points is another quote that's been brought up. Burrow, everybody's talking about Chase Brown being a big part of this offense, and when you have Jahmyr Chase and T. Higgins on the outside, you are not going to be the focal points of defense, even if you're the focal point of your play calling.
Get ready to learn light boxes again, Chase Brown.
Yeah, and dude, this is an elite athlete, 4.3 speed, 5.5 targets a game, man. Like, what else do I have to say about Chase Brown? This is such an easy click. In the 3rd round, we have him 18th overall. We would spend a mid-2nd round pick on this guy.
You know what's the best part about Chase Brown, though?
What's that?
He's Canadian.
He is Canadian. So let's talk about a guy who is not Canadian and who at one point in the offseason was one of the best values on the entire board on Underdog, and definitely still is a pretty good value, but I'll let you talk about George Kittle here.
I mean, need I say more than he was the tight end 1 in PPR points per game with 15.8 in 2024? And now when you look at the 49ers, Debo's traded, Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk are hurt. We could be in store for George Kittle's most targets since 2018. And let's keep it brief. He is the best talent at the tight end position. I don't think any NFL evaluator, I don't think any football fan in general will watch George Kittle and not think that is the best tight end in the league. And if he does get that uptick in volume, we're talking about a 49ers offense that is top 10 in implied points per game in 2025. George Kittle, 130 plus targets with that talent level in a top 10 offense, and you're getting him at the end of round 3 and round 4 in some leagues.
Yeah, no, you can get him. Like if you start your draft with, let's say you go wide receiver, running back first 2 rounds, and then you grab an elite quarterback and George Kittle, or you grab another running back or another wide receiver and George Kittle, you're getting that elite positional advantage. And part of why I've been so hard to click the button on Brock Bowers is because George Kittle outscored him last year on like 50 less targets.
He's so insane. We know what he's going to do with the yards after catch game. If he can get, like I said, 20 plus more targets, 25 plus more targets, it's not outlandish. I mean, Brandon Ayuk, all-pro level talent. Deebo Samuel was an all-pro a couple years ago. Like, those guys are not in the receiving core anymore. Instead, we got Jawan Jennings, who's already hurt, and Ricky Pearsall, an unproven second-year wide receiver, as his target competition. Like, to me, especially in the early portion of the year, George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey will be the funnels of the passing game.
Yeah, no, not to mention, too, like, George Kittle's got to start thinking about, how do I get a gold jacket someday? Because, I mean, he's probably already a Hall of Famer, but, like, he wants to seal his case. This could be a legacy season for George Kittle, legitimately. This could be his most yardage, most touchdowns of his career. Because if you look back at George Kittle's game logs, despite how dominant this guy has been for fantasy, He's got like 3 seasons of more than 100 targets. Like, he does not get target volume. He is a freak show efficiency-wise. If you give this dude target volume, I fear for your league mates if you have George Kittle on your team.
He has had, I believe, you guys can quote or fact check me if I'm incorrect, but I believe this is 99% correct. He has one season in his career, which was year 2, I believe was 2018, I believe.
Yep.
One season in his career with 110 plus targets.
Yeah, insane. Absolutely insane. If you give a guy who produces on low volume the amount of targets that he could get, especially like you said at that beginning portion of the year, if you trade a lot in your leagues, you might be able to sell him for anything you want after the first 5 games of the year. Because as much as I think Ayuk come week 5, week 6, week 7 gets back on the field, I mean, George Kittle could already be, 7 points higher than the next closest tight end at that point.
Dude, if let's just say BTJ got off to a slow start because Travis Hunter week 1 had 8 targets or something like that and people got worried, and you could package George Kittle plus Keon Coleman, who caught a touchdown in week 1, maybe that doesn't get you there, but it'll get the guy thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So getting into the honorable mentions of this territory, we'll try and speed this up a little bit. Mike Evans, pretty straightforward. 1,000 yards is a lock. It has been every year of his career, 11 touchdowns in 4 of his last 5 seasons. I love the case for Mike Evans the same reason you love the case for George Kittle, because Emeka Egbuka's a rookie. As great as he is, and as much buzz as he's getting, he's still a rookie. He's probably not going to start out guns a-blazing 10 targets in week 1. Chris Godwin, if he's even on the field in week 1, probably won't be back to 100%. I've seen a lot of fantasy doctors say about October, mid-October will be when he's closer to 100%. 10th easiest schedule in the NFL for wide receivers. 5 of his first 6 games could easily shoot out. We got the Falcons, the Texans, the Jets, teams that are not, we can score against those teams, no problem. And Mike Evans, quietly, as I just told you, the lowest amount of contested catches opportunities in his career. He is at his peak as a route runner. 90.2 PFF receiving grade, second highest of his career. Since 2016, he hasn't had a higher PFF receiving grade than that. 2.52 yards per route run. Best since his 2016 season as well. Liam Cohen is gone, yes, but Josh Grizzard, it's a continuity hire. He was the pass game coordinator. He was calling the plays on 3rd down, and we led the NFL in 3rd down conversion rate. I don't think this offense, especially game planning wise, when we get number 13 the football, is going to be any different. When we get 13 the football is when we want to take a shot and in the red zone.
Yeah, how many times do we have to say on this channel that Liam Cohen, the biggest negative for this Bucs offense, is going to come in the run scheme?
Yeah.
You guys have a great offensive line. Yeah, sure. Tristan Wirfs being out, especially in the early portion.
Also not a guarantee, by the way, because we're hearing Todd Bowles say that he could be back sooner rather than later. And I think
he's on the pup though, right? So 4 games at least.
No, he's on the pup for training camp. He has not, you can't place somebody on the pup for the start of the season yet. And Todd Bowles sounded more bullish than the initial report was on Tristan Wirfs. Not to mention, I think all of us can probably recognize Tristan Wirfs is not really built the same as other people. He can come. He tore his MCL and missed 1 game from it. He's an insane physical specimen. It wouldn't shock me if he misses no time for this.
Dude, I had a grade 2 MCL sprain. I couldn't walk for 2 weeks.
He missed 1 game.
I couldn't walk for 2 weeks with a grade 2. So this guy, you say he tore it or at least had a grade 3, right?
Last year, during October, there was reports that he could miss up to 2 months. He missed 1 game.
Yeah, no, that guy is built different. Don't want to know what's in his blood to make him, step back right away. But kudos to him. I mean, there's a reason why he's on a first ballot Hall of Fame trajectory at this point.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So Evans, also a great option here. We would have had Devontae Adams in this territory, but obviously Devontae Adams has this Stafford issue that he's dealing with. We got to get more information. As of now, we're not panicking, but maybe cool the exposures down a little bit if you guys are drafting underdog teams. And of course, if you guys want to draft underdog teams, head on over to Underdog Fantasy, use the promo code FSE, start drafting. There's no rosters, there's no in-season management, there's no waiver wire, there's no trades. All you do is draft, and basically you just collect your winnings at the end of the year. You spend $100 on drafts throughout the year, you sweat out your Best Ball Mania teams. It's a ton of fun. It's literally the best part of fantasy football in the last couple of years is sweating out these Best Ball Mania teams.
We're already 80 plus drafts in. Again, you guys will see the players that we love, especially come superlative season, but ton of fun over on Underdog.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you guys do want to check that out, head to UnderdogFantasy.com, use the promo code FSC to sign up, get up to $1,000 in bonus funds on the site when you sign up, and a gimme pick in your pick'em lobby. The other honorable mention for the 3rd round was the quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, you mentioned Ryan Heath and the league winner rate for the tight end position. Well, in the 3rd round, Lamar, Allen, and Hurts, the last 3 or 4 years, I believe it is, 5 of 6 times that you drafted one of those 3 quarterbacks in the 3rd round, you've gotten a league winner. Not a good pick, not a decent pick, a 25 plus point per game dominant quarterback advantage.
And I know, maybe older fantasy players watching this might be thinking, well, new generation, we had Peyton Manning and we had Tom Brady. It's like the reason why these guys are so different now is because of the rushing tendencies, because a Joe Burrow year last year, 43 touchdowns, leading the league, I think, in passing yards. Like, that would have been quarterback one in 2012. That would have been quarterback one in 2009. Well, you have these freaks that are contributing 800 plus rushing yards and 7 plus rushing touchdowns now. It's just so hard to be the quarterback one unless you're giving rushing game.
Yeah, like unless you're going to have a Patrick Mahomes 2018 season, it's pretty much impossible to beat these guys because Josh Allen could throw 30 touchdowns and 4,200 yards
and rush for 13 and 800.
Yeah, it's almost impossible to beat these guys. So that's why don't be afraid to take the early round quarterback as long as their name is Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Jaden Daniels, or Jalen Hurts, or they run and they go later on in the draft because especially in 4-point per passing touchdown leagues, they're going to be a huge advantage for you. So moving into the 4th round, we have a lot more variety here because the first 3 rounds, like generally there's not going to be as much discrepancy between our rankings and like ADP because we're pretty good at refining these. But round 4 through like round 8 is where the real differences are going to start to happen. And I'll kick things off with Marvin Harrison Jr. I get that Marvin Harrison wasn't great as a rookie, wide receiver 39 when you drafted him, probably around the 1-2 turn. A lot of people, 11.56 PPR points per game. Definitely not what you wanted where you drafted him. But the reception perception data is pretty solid. 75th percentile win rate against man, 72nd against zone, 80th versus press coverage. Marvin doesn't have 4.3 speed. It was going to take him a little bit of time to understand NFL defenses, know how to win in the NFL. He's bulked up a little bit. The hype is building for him. The Vegas totals are actually we're not huge use Vegas totals to draft your fantasy teams, people.
Correct.
But it is good to know if we're making a huge mistake. Like if Marvin Harrison's Vegas total was 775 yards, that would be an overvalued player. But he has the same total, or a higher total actually, than Jackson Smith and Jigba, than Mike Evans, than T. Higgins.
Confirmation bias.
Yeah, and just behind guys like Tyreek Hill and Ladd McConkey, who go kind of at that 2-3 turn territory. So Harrison being that high in Vegas totals means that, Vegas has more information than all of us combined. Like, they must know that Harrison's about to have a decent season.
Keep in mind, too, those totals are based on the median projection. And for a guy like Marvin Harrison Jr., you would think he'd be valued based off more the ceiling than the median. So the fact that the median projection is that high is definitely a green flag in his regard.
Yeah, and like I said with Trey McBride, soft schedule, man. 9th in implied point total by Vegas. When it counts, the Cardinals play the following teams. Jaguars week 12, Bucks week 13, Rams week 14. That's a lot of points. Texans week 15, Falcons week 16, Bengals week 17 in the fantasy playoffs. Here's the thing with Marvin Harrison. Is he the safest pick in the 3rd round? Absolutely not. He is one of the riskiest picks in the 3rd round, but you have a premier prospect, a good enough quarterback to get him the football, a high implied point total for the team, a high implied pass rate. They're saying all the right things in camp. He's checking boxes even if he's risky.
And on top of that, you said 3rd round. We're in the 4th round area too, because outside of Underdog, he is a 4th round pick. Underdog, he's pushed up a little bit, a wide receiver 3rd. Plus, if you start, Jamar Chase or T. Higgins, people
probably that week 17. Yeah.
It'll be bound to happen because that's going to be a game probably with a 51, 52, maybe even a 53 implied total come week 17. But regardless, Marvin Harrison Jr., very, very easy bounce back candidate. It's funny that we're talking about bounce back because his expectations were so high as a rookie. He was going on that 1-2 turn. But we do have to frame it as a bounce back. People had their expectations, kind of went under the radar in terms of where he maybe could have been after his rookie year. But regardless, I've made the comp to CeeDee Lamb before. CeeDee Lamb had 900 yards, 6 touchdowns in his rookie year. Even his own dad had 850 yards and 6 touchdowns. So if you're worried about, Marvin Harrison Jr. Being able to step his game up in year 2, I wouldn't necessarily be, because I still think that 2nd overall prospect is in there.
Yeah, Nabers, Ladd, and Brian Thomas doing what they did as rookies is a lot more pro.
4th overall.
It's a lot more pro Nabers, Ladd, and Brian Thomas than it is anti-Harrison. That's the way that we need to think about it, because Harrison having 900 yards and 8 touchdowns or whatever he had, that's fine for a rookie receiver. It's just that we drafted him so high, so that feels like the worst season of all time. All right, Danny, let's get it to you for Omarion Hampton, who, again, is both of our guys. Harrison, for me, is ranked in the 3rd round. Hampton, for you, I'm assuming, is ranked in the early 3rd round.
I would take this guy with the 1st overall pick in the 3rd round, and I would sleep like a baby doing so. So the fact that he's going in the 4th, if you are watching this and hey, I'm in my home league draft, I can get Omarion Hampton in the 4th round, Do not pass on him. This is a JT level prospect with first round draft capital and an incumbent, vet behind him still with no timetable for return. Like Najee Harris, what happened to his eye? Realistically, does he have a glass eye at this point? He's always wearing shades. He's doing drills on the side. Like, what is going on with Najee Harris? How do we still not have a timetable for his return? And the injury happened literally over a month ago. Doesn't matter though, because if you're drafting Omarion Hampton, I don't worry about when Najee Harris comes back. If it's week 4, if it's week 8, if it's week 12, does not matter to me, because I think whenever Najee Harris comes back, by then Omarion Hampton will have established this as his backfield, because guess what? He's an elite athlete. He's running behind a very strong offensive line with offensive coaches that want to establish the run. Greg Roman, Jim Harbaugh, they want to have a strong run game to keep balance on their offense. And on top of that, his touchdown equity is high. Playing in an offense is insulated with an elite quarterback, opportunity to contribute in the passing game. He is a workhorse rookie running back that has all the looks to be a guy that we are ranking in our top 5 running back rankings come week 17.
Yeah, no, you're drafting Omarion Hampton for the upside that he is one of the best picks in fantasy, especially come week 8 and onward.
Yeah.
And I've talked about this before, but it would be different if Najee Harris was on the Steelers still, and the Steelers drafted Omarion Hampton in the first round.
Yeah.
Because then you're like, he's been with the Steelers, he knows the system, he's been there for 4 or 5 years. Even if he missed all of training camp, he would be just fine.
They know him.
They know him. They don't know him. The Chargers just signed this guy, and he doesn't know the offense him being in training camp and getting the first team reps and all that was going to knock Omarion Hampton's ADP down. Like if we saw reports in preseason games, we see Najee running with the ones, we were going to see Hampton's ADP start to dwindle. But in my opinion, it hasn't gone up high enough, because Najee not being there means that it's a level playing field. Hampton's getting all the reps with the first team. He's getting all the opportunity to start for this team. And going into the season, why on earth would the Chargers just be like, yeah, the veteran's going to start, when the guy who's been in camp the whole time playing with the first team has gotten all the reps and is probably improving by the day?
It's like when the cool kid at school is sitting at the popular lunch table, but then his family moves across the country and he tries to sit at that lunch table. Like, everybody's just going to look at him saying, like, who the hell are you?
Yeah, exactly. You got to put in the work and start to fraternize with the popular kids.
Amen.
And Najee Harris is a glass eye right now, so he's not able to do that.
Probably not going to go well with the popular kids.
No, absolutely not. So, Danny, let's rattle off our honorable mentions for round 4. Both guys that I'm very comfortable taking as territory of the draft. I have Devonta Smith here. Tell me how this makes sense. The guy goes off the board wide receiver 28. He's never finished below wide receiver 20 in points per game in his career since his rookie season. And the only reason he's going this low is because people go, low pass volume. It's like, well, yeah, but he finished wide receiver 15 in points per game last year on historically low pass volume. He was a 95th percentile separator versus man coverage, according to reception perception. And then 91st percentile versus press. Remember, Devonta Smith can't beat press coverage? 91st percentile, he beat it last year. 76th against zone as well. What happens, as I've talked about for AJ, as I've talked about for Hurts, as I've talked about for Saquon, what happens if the Eagles are not historically low in pass volume again? Maybe they play some more competitive games down the stretch. They have a harder schedule. What if they have some defensive injuries?
Implied upside if AJ Brown or Saquon miss time.
Yeah, what if Barkley goes down for a couple games, or if he's just not nearly as dominant, ending drives on 50-yard touchdowns seemingly once a game like he was doing last year? I think it's underrated how little opportunity you have to score touchdowns, make big plays, when 26 was doing it every single time to the Eagles.
Yeah, I mean, given his ADP, you're getting an elite player. You're getting a strong offense. And you know that, the low projected volume is a thing. But at the same time, he's a high floor player that has implied upside to smash if, a couple different scenarios happen. Like you said, pass volume goes up. AJ goes down. Saquon Barkley goes down. To me, with Devonta Smith, if you're going to a 5-star restaurant to go get a steak, are you just getting a steak on your plate?
No, you're going to get the sides, you're going to get the other stuff. Devonta Smith has the opportunity, like I said, to be drafted right now at his absolute basement price tag. Yeah. And he's a young wide receiver. Also, too, the study I did the other day where it's what archetypes of wide receivers do we want? Well, guess what? Devonta Smith, wide receiver 12 in points per game just 2 years ago. And he's in his prime under the age of 26 right now. He's 26 years old. And he plays for an offense that's projected for a top 10 scoring unit and 11.5 wins.
Yeah, no, all the tea leaves are reading to Devonta Smith, not only paying off at his ADP, but potentially, this was a guy that was going in the mid-third last year, and he just falls a little bit because people are worried about 1 year of overall volume there. So agree with you with Devonta Smith. My honorable mention is Breece Hall, talking about a fall from grace in ADP. Devonta Smith falling about a round and a half. a lot more of a fall for Breece Hall. In fact, in the Flock League last year, I took this guy, may or may not have taken him at the 6th overall pick. Big yikes there, but I mean, when he's a 4th-round pick, there is not much to think about here. There's already rumors of an expanded role in the passing game, opportunity to be the number 2 target for an offense after proving he was literally an elite receiver on the backfield in 2023, led all running backs in targets, 95 targets in that season. And while he may lose some work between the tackles, because we have heard reports that, Braylon Allen might take between the tackles carries, we were both high on Isaiah Tavis as a runner. But even if we expect him to lose some of those dirty carries, it could potentially even keep him clean, because the other factor in 2024, the reason why he became a bust, not only because of Braylon Allen, because of Isaiah Davis, it was more so because of the knee injury, the MCL sprain that he was playing through in 2024. And the metrics do back it up. It was actually Ron Stewart who tweeted this, but if you look at his efficiency metrics in 2024 in relation to 2022 plus 2023, he was an elite efficiency player the previous 2 years prior to last season. Then you add on offensive line issues, you add on injury issues, you add on some backfield competition. That is why Breece Hall didn't pay off. Ultimately, sure, are you getting a back that's probably going to get 325, 350 opportunities? Not necessarily. But if you're getting 275 plus opportunities with 90 plus of them being in the receiving game in the 4th round for your running back position, guys, you can draft him in addition to a Bijan Robinson, in addition to a Jahmyr Gibbs, or if you're looking at a hero running back strategy, I honestly think you can get Breece Hall as your hero running back as late in the 4th round. So to me, he represents such an opportunity for a clear-cut running back 1 projection that has the opportunity to be a top 5 guy yet again like he was 2 years ago.
Here's my favorite 3 rebuttals to people who don't like Breece Hall, because I'm sure the first one is Braylon's going to be a big factor. Well, even in that depressed efficiency, 2024
he's better than Braylon's.
He's still better than Braylon Allen, so there goes 1. Number 2, he's in his prime, contract year, running back who's finished as an RB1 before. What did I talk about in the early round running backs video? Those are the best archetypes to bet on, especially when you get them at a discount like you're getting with Breece Hall. PFF ranked their offensive line as a top 10 unit, so we got better offensive line play than we saw from him.
7th overall pick.
7th overall pick, Armand Membu. Olu Fashanu, a top 12 pick in last year's draft. Breece Hall finished as a top 8 running back 1 year removed from a torn ACL. And after week 5, when Robert Saleh said the training wheels are off, he was like a 20-point per game scorer, no questions asked. With Justin Fields, his propensity to actually throw the ball to his running backs, a lot of people probably assume he's a mobile quarterback. He's not going to check the ball down. Well, he actually has historically in his career. And other than Garrett Wilson, who are they going to throw the football to? If Breece Hall loses some of those touches to Braylon Allen, he will more than make up for it in the receiving game. And who's to say, I'm not a doctor, I have no idea if this is true or not. Who's to say him having as many touches, as much of a workload as he did 1 year from that torn ACL, kind of result in like a rebound effect where the year after that he was a little bit banged up? What if this year he was shut down towards the end of the season, not getting as many touches? Contract year, he looks fresh. He's a former elite athlete. He catches the football. He's finished as an RB1 before. Just last year, you and I were saying he might be one of the best 3 to 5 running backs in football. So much is here for a bounce back.
The receiver or receiving threat is how I'll clarify it, that has been gaining the most buzz in training camp outside of Breece Hall is a rookie tight end who just sprained his ankle.
Yeah, Mason Taylor is his biggest target.
Ankle sprain.
Yeah, exactly. Not great news for a guy who needs those reps to be on the field. So, yeah, are the Jets going to be good? No. I don't expect them to be better than like a 7-win team, I would say. But Breece Hall can get there on targets. Breece Hall's game script proof. Breece Hall runs the ball like crazy, and he also gets these big plays and ends drives just like Saquon Barkley was doing last year.
And that's part of it too. When you're drafting him last year, again, I drafted him at 6th overall. He obviously didn't pay off there. You are drafting him with the assumption that if you were taking him at number 6 overall, he needs to score 20 points per game. He needs to score 22 points per game. When you're getting him in the 4th round, if you're getting a 17.5 plus point per game projection there, it is a free pick.
Yeah, especially if you already started your draft, Nico Collins, Brian Thomas Jr., and George Kittle.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. So we are going to head out of here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Must draft players by round essentially is what we did. These are 12 players that we are staking the mortgage on, staking our lives on, because we think that they are some of the best picks in each round of your fantasy football drafts. If you guys enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new around here. If you want all of our rankings, if you want all the data that we showcased in this video today, the FSE rankings versus home league ADP, the Sleeper, the Yahoo, the NFL, the ESPN, whatever platform you're playing on, check out our season pass. You can get it right now for $35 when you use promo code FSE. You'll get our draft guide, the draft guides of all your other favorite creators on the site who are in the Flock League, and you will also get season access August to January for start sits, for weekly rankings, for rest of season rankings. You can use our trade calculator, our mock draft tools, everything you'll need to dominate your season-long leagues. Season Pass, check it out. It is linked down below in the pinned comment. But with that being said, peace out, and we'll talk to you soon.